What's going on, guys? We're here for Double Axis Podcast edition number 9. Before I get to our guest, I'd like to publicly thank David. David started this morning out in Florida and rushed his butt off to get back here to make sure that we could do Friday the 13th podcast. So really appreciate it, David. Was your drive good?
It was great.
He looks like a zombie right now.
Attaboy gravy. Attaboy gravy.
Not too much traffic.
Really?
Yeah.
Even through Atlanta?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there it was kind of bad, but I thought Knoxville may have been worse than Atlanta.
So where were you at? Were you in like the Jacksonville area?
Well, first we started at the beginning of the week at Naples, outside of Fort Myer.
So you just went on a sightseeing trip across Florida?
Well, Megan's mom lives in Naples, and then we went to my grandmother's house, and she lives in St. Petersburg, so in the Tampa Bay area. That's where we ended.
Okay, yeah, that's where I thought you were.
Yeah.
So, and you did some fishing and stuff like that? You put some cool pictures on Facebook?
Yeah, I did a lot of fishing. Megan did a lot better than I did this whole week. She caught a shark and like 3 grouper, 320.
I saw a grouper, but I didn't see a shark.
I didn't get a picture of it. We didn't get that on the boat. They didn't want that on the boat. Don't blame them.
How big was it?
It was about 4 feet. It was a nurse shark.
Dang.
Yeah.
You could have got it on video, bro.
Yeah. Well, at that point, I was like,
12 pops in.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
going
called
to say.
pops.
About 12 deep.
So, but I sincerely appreciate it. And if anybody wants to check out those fishing pictures, it's at Diamond Dave on Instagram, right?
That's correct.
David Morganson on Facebook.
That's correct.
So our guest probably needs no introduction in the town. Mike Cushman, a.k.a. The Fish, a.k.a. You Can't Hook the Fish. So super happy to have him here. Me and Mike have been friends since, what, junior year?
Yeah, when I moved down here.
So what year was this? That's 2003, 2004?
Fall of 03.
Fall of 03. So, with when I was talking to Jerry, we really talked about kind of the difference in my upbringing versus his upbringing. That was just from, the Winchester area to Louisville. So you grew up kind of in the suburbs of Cleveland, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up halfway between Cleveland and Akron.
Halfway between Cleveland and Akron. So how far does the suburbs of Cleveland reach to Akron? Is that the outer limits of it, or does it go out further than that?
Greater Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, is almost all of Cuyahoga County, and I lived right outside of Cuyahoga County.
Gotcha. So, you're still considered part of Cleveland, or was it?
It's easier just to say I'm from Cleveland than to say I'm from
right.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Because people don't really know, just like they would any other area. If you're not from there, you probably don't know it. So,
yeah. Look at somebody saying from Winchester compared to I'm from Lexington.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. I'm from Lexington.
So did it? Yeah, definitely. So did it have a big city feel to it, or since it was outside of that area, did it feel smaller? So it felt basically huge compared to Winchester.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think down here, Clark County, there's one high school.
Yeah.
3 little townships comprised my high school, and it was the same size of kids.
Gotcha.
And that doesn't include Akron, Canton.
So in your county, how many high schools were there?
I honestly have no idea.
No idea. So probably more than you probably could count. So, I want you to talk a little bit about what it was like growing up there, as in-depth as you want to do it. We talked to Jerry about it, and, Jerry was talking about, the way that he was kind of grew up. It's a lot different from me. It's not really a question that I've ever asked you on or off camera. So, what was it like growing up in that area? I mean,
I guess not too different from anywhere else. I mean, ride our bikes, play with the neighborhood kids. Excuse me. Back then you could ride your bike around that whole town and not worry about it.
So it wasn't like it didn't have like an inner city feel. It had truly like a suburb feel kind of to it. So you could ride your bikes and do all that stuff. That was my main question, because we were talking with Jerry and we were like, he's like, what did he say? It was kind of like Stand By Me, and I was like, no man, it couldn't be like Stand By. He said, well, it certainly wasn't Boys in the Hood, so we established his somewhere between the middle. So would you consider the kids that were around, were they troublemakers? Were they good kids? Was it kind of like here? Was there really any difference? Because when we're growing up, we don't understand, hey, we're just growing up in small town Winchester, and you don't understand, hey, we're growing up in a bigger suburb of Cleveland.
I mean, every town's got their troublemakers, they're good kids, things like that. My group of friends, we were kind of the town assholes.
Yeah. So nothing's changed.
No.
Just like Jerry, you know? God.
What's the over-under that Mike stole LeBron's lunch money? And
Never did that. Never did that.
So, how long was it when you were growing up before you actually got into sports? I mean, was it something that...
I played sports my entire life. The first sport I can remember playing was either basketball or soccer. I was in a sport every season. Started football in 4th grade and kind of never looked back.
Never played baseball, though?
Oh, yeah.
So you played everything leading up into 4th grade, and then that's kind of when football took over?
Well, no, about 4th grade, I pretty much stuck to football and baseball until 8th grade, freshman year.
Yeah.
About 8th grade. And then it was just strictly football. Wrestled a little bit.
Was that a sad period of time? That's when the Browns left, was it, when you were in 4th grade? Was that about the time period?
Roughly, yeah.
Were you even were you even aware of it?
No, I really wasn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't think.
Because they left 96, came back 99. I was in 7th or 8th grade when they came back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm sure you were aware of it then. You know?
Yeah.
I don't really know. I guess sports were bigger for us because we were kind of, like we talked about, smaller. I don't really know when ball became life, so to speak. You know, I only had 4 or 5 channels, so you know it was a pretty big part of my life.
Growing up, both of our dads were huge Cowboys fans, and they were always on TV.
Yeah, and you know that's without having a team here, you kind of have to latch onto somebody, and you know, thank goodness I was a part of the Bulls era, so I got to see Jordan play on national TV, especially in the playoffs. I remember sneaking. I had like a little, God, I don't even know, 12, 14-inch TV, just tiny TV, and I'd be hiding in remote places, and my mom couldn't take it away. As soon as she left,
did the same thing with wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
See, but I didn't have cable, so you had a luxury that I didn't.
Well, no,
have.
see, because this was when SmackDown was on. SmackDown was on local.
Yeah. As soon as my mom went to sleep, turned from WCW to WWF. So
But I was going to think mid-90s was when the Indians were big too.
Yeah, well, late 90s especially.
94 on, really.
Yeah.
Jim Tomei. Huge.
David Justice, Omar Vizquel, Sandy Alomar. It was
they
a
had
dream.
some great players.
So,
Charles Nagy, Oral Hershiser.
kind of getting back a little bit more to your life. You know, people may be aware of it, not aware of it. You know, your mom had a lot to do as far as raising you. And,
Yeah, I'm an only child of a single mom, and my mom was extremely overprotective. I didn't understand it then. I do now. My dad was involved with some really, really bad people, and I guess somehow they found out about me, about her, roughly the area we lived. So I was kept on a really, really short leash until I was about middle school.
And how old were you when your dad kind of stepped out of the picture?
He went to prison when I was 3, got out when I was 9, died when I was 10. And actually, the 9th of next month will be 20 years.
Okay, and was your mom still married to him throughout his entire...
No. When I was born, my mom gave him an ultimatum. If you get in trouble one more time, we're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
And she followed through.
Gotcha.
Now, as soon as he got out, he was right back in the picture. She never kept me from it, nothing like that.
So that was 3 when he got in trouble again.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mom and your dad got divorced, your dad went to prison, and your mom raised you effectively on your own from 3 to 9.
I mean, you always hear growing up takes a village. You never realize it until you look back. I was always either with my mom or at my aunt's with my cousins or my grandmother, even when she lived down here or up there.
Yeah.
I was always with family or kids my age.
Right.
She had help. Everybody has help.
Right.
But effectively, I'm a single mom. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3.
So when your dad got out, I assume that since he died so close to when he actually got out, was he showing signs of being ill at that point in time, or were you too young to remember that? Or?
I mean, I remember bits and pieces, but I didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
Like, we would go to the movies every week, and some weeks he would call because
so
he was too sick.
he would get rights, I guess, to see you after he got out of jail.
She never kept him from me,
Gotcha.
or never kept me from him. You know, so, you know, there would be some weeks where he'd cancel because he was sick, and I didn't understand. I'd get angry about it, but I didn't understand what was going on. You know, he tried coming to the football games, football practices as much as he could. You know.
So when he got sick, did was he on his own until the moment that he passed away, or did he have to be actually hospitalized to where you?
He was
remember?
actually hospitalized and in a coma.
Okay, so do you remember going and seeing him? Is that something?
Oh yeah,
that,
I actually had flashbacks a couple of years back about it, really bad ones, and you were there for him.
Yeah. So you remember kind of all that situation. I'm sure being that young, you really didn't comprehend what was going on with the situation, as far as all of that stuff goes. So would you say, what period of your life did you kind of throw yourself into football? Was it like immediately after this, or did it take several years for you to become completely invested in it?
More, right after the 8th grade season, when they would start shipping us after school to go work out at the high school with the team.
Gotcha. So you were probably 12, 13 then, would you say?
Probably about 13, 14, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So that's a little bit older than what I thought. And so, you're from an area that football is obviously king, and, you got to be a part of a lot of really good teams in Ohio, correct? So
yeah, because of my own doing, my freshman year I was ineligible, couldn't play at all, but I could practice.
So explain that, because I don't know if I've heard that story.
Well, because of my grades.
Gotcha.
And down here they do grade check. When we were in school, they did grade checks weekly.
Yeah.
Up there, it's semester. If you don't hit that mark at the end of the semester, you're ineligible for the entire next semester.
So what made your grade slip? Because
I just didn't try.
Well, I mean, I know, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but you're one of the smartest people book-wise that I've ever met. So it just was completely lack of not trying.
It didn't challenge me, so I really didn't care.
So Mike's getting cocky already.
No, it really didn't.
Yeah.
It just, a lot of the stuff, it came natural. Remembering numbers, for history or different things with math or science, it stuck with me.
Yeah. See, it was never necessarily a challenge for me that kind of factored into it. It was just that I really didn't care. It wasn't something that I could spit to you stats of probably the Indians in the 90s or Jordan stats or whatever it may be, but I didn't really grasp the school. It wasn't something I was interested in. So football becomes more important to you, and you're going through those good teams up in Ohio, and then eventually you end up moving to Kentucky. Was there anything that transpired that stuck out to you during your time in Ohio football, or
the complete different lifestyles of football?
Yeah.
I mean, down here it's basketball.
Right. Well, yeah.
Up there it's football.
Yeah. We would like for it to be football. We just haven't had a good team in a really long time.
Yeah. So, sophomore year. Let me backtrack. I started playing football because of a kid's dad that I played baseball with, because of his dad. He was actually the head football coach when I was in 3rd grade.
Yeah, so he looked at you and say, "You're big for no reason. You need to be playing football."
Pretty much. He came up to me one day after a game. I was standing next to my mom, and he said, "When you get to high school, I don't care if you're a player or not, or if she signs you up or not, I will."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'm sorry, but who are you?"
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story. So was she apprehensive about you playing football? Because
she
you told me
was.
that you just said that she kind of kept you on a short leash. So
she was, but at the same time, she knew it was good for me. She always wanted me in a sport, and she'd rather it be something I wanted to do than something I didn't.
Gotcha.
And so I started playing that next year, which was my 4th grade year. And when I was in 8th grade, he actually left the school, went to a different school. Came back my freshman year and coached my freshman team, which I was ineligible for. And then he got re-promoted to varsity coach my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And that team was one of the most special teams I've ever been a part of.
Right. And they eventually won the state championship.
No, we lost in the state championship.
Oh, wow.
But we went 13-2. The 2 teams we lost to, the first one was Solon High School, which I believe at the time was nationally ranked. It was game of the weekend.
Were there any players that stuck out that you all played against, that played in the league or anything like that?
Yeah, the state championship game was Javon Ringer.
Oh, okay.
The only guy we really couldn't catch.
Yeah, understandable.
But we were that. When you look at football, different parts of, especially in the NFL, there's different styles of football.
Right.
AFC North is that old school smash mouth and run down your throat. That's what we were.
Yeah.
We lined up on you, we ran the ball on you, and said, "Try to stop us."
I actually heard a really interesting opinion about that the other day, talking about the reason that SEC football and certain programs, play the way that they do, and it's kind of weather based. And so You talking about
Oh, yeah.
that division in football? You know, they have to run the football a lot as it gets colder. So I would say that it would probably affect high school football just the same.
Oh, especially up there, we'd average, you know, especially when we got into the playoffs that sophomore year. When my uncle passed, I came down here for the funeral. I missed that game. Again, my own doing. I was ineligible for the last 3 or 4 games of the playoffs.
Grades again?
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah,
Which is going to bring a story that we're going to tell in the future even funnier. No, it's not a bad thing.
Come down and I'm following the game. I'm looking up all the stats and the highlights and everything else online down here. And there was a half-hour delay because they had to plow the field.
Oh, wow.
And then there was another 20-minute delay at halftime. They didn't plow the whole field again. They just plowed the lines.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen them do that in the NFL, obviously, probably with a lot better equipment.
You know, like I said, we lined up and said we're going to run the ball and try to stop it. So our leading rusher had over 2,000 yards. Our second rusher had about 1,800. I think altogether we had almost 5,000 rushing yards for the team.
Holy cow.
And our quarterback had 2,000 passing yards.
Wow. Those are long games, I bet.
So did you get any run on these teams? Were you getting play time? Or?
Oh, yeah. I played more defense than offense because our offensive line was just amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it with all those running yards.
So I stuck more to defense. Now I was better on offense, but I liked defense more.
Right.
And we ran a 5-2, and so we had different position coaches. And my position coach, he called us the TNT, is tackle nose tackle. He was, I think, 2 years out of college, played 4 years at Syracuse, played with Donovan McNabb, and he was just a very intense guy in your face.
Right.
And I just kind of latched to him.
Right.
And just soaked everything up. I think I was about a quarter shy of lettering overall, but I got significant playing time up until I became ineligible.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
if you hadn't become ineligible, you probably would have lettered then. Basically.
Oh yeah.
So sophomore year, you have the great team, and then you eventually moved down here after that, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't so much culture shock because I've been down here a lot, but I never really interacted with anybody my age.
Yeah, it has to be culture shock.
So that was because I never interacted with anybody my age. And then, it comes to football, I'm the biggest guy out there. I don't have to try. Like I said, if I'm not challenged, I'm not going to push myself.
Right. Yeah.
I'm that type of person. I have to have somebody pushing me. And so I just kind of coasted along and did what I did.
Right. And I can relate to that a lot. When I look back at my sport, it kind of my, if you want to call it a sports career, but and playing in high school or whatever it may be, I've always wondered why things didn't work out differently and I didn't achieve more success, at least in my mind, to what it was. Because going through middle school, going to all these camps with highly recruited, highly touted players, and I was just lazy. I mean, so. I don't know if it was that I needed somebody to push me or whatever else, but I just thought that my natural God-given ability could kind of carry me through it, and I didn't want to do any extra work to that. And it's kind of the same thing with school. I just kind of coasted along as well.
Just like that, I'm not really sure if it's just I needed somebody to push me or if I needed somebody to legitimately compete against. Up there, up in Cleveland, my sophomore year, I was about 6'4", 250-ish, average size for a senior.
Right.
So I'm obviously there's people to compete against. I moved down here sophomore year. I think I was 6'5", 6'6", maybe, and maybe 260, 270. Senior year, same thing, 275.
Yeah. Not
many people down here are that size.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but there is an actual size difference when you put people like where I grew up to down here. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but there's a visible size difference.
Well, it's the same thing with wildlife. If you find a white-tailed deer in Florida that weighs 90 pounds, you find a white-tailed deer in Canada that weighs 250. Yeah. So I mean, maybe you just have to be bigger to survive the winters up there.
I don't know. I got a lot of short friends.
So you move down here, and it's a culture shock, like you said. Let's see. So you said that we met in the fall of 2003. So basically,
chemistry class.
Yeah, but to this point, you've kind of watched everything around football. Like everything's kind of surrounding football, correct?
Yeah. In all honesty, you're probably the first person I talked to outside of the football team when I moved down here.
Yeah, you told me that before, and I always remember, looking around, and I always was trying to pay attention to a lot of things. And I remember seeing a giant dude with shaved head wearing a green and white football jersey, and I was like always really interested by it. I don't remember what I said to you when
I couldn't tell you,
but you used to have a good story about it, so I don't even remember how we met or what I said.
We ended up sitting next to each other. And it just kind of went from there. I don't remember what you said. I think I said something smart ass back.
I'm sure. But I'm sure that I led with a smart aleck comment
Probably.
as well. So, but I do remember. I remember just walking up to you and basically kind of saying, "So what's your deal or story or whatever?" And it was in the wing that we had our science class.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd ever taught before. And so it's so hard for me to believe what you're saying about the grades, because without you being there, there's no way I would have passed chemistry. So I find that hilarious that
The
you
bad thing is I really didn't even try in chemistry.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, not all of us are gifted in mathematicians like you, Rain Man. So
Yeah,
I
for
don't
me,
know. What can I say?
C's get degrees.
it's easy to get there. Well, that was my motto. So yeah. So,
Actually, our teacher and the teacher next to were they dating at that time? I think.
I don't know if we should talk about that. That's
But
probably a faux pas. It was it was
Anyway.
very a weird situation
It-
that they would disappear for a while, and so we were kind of left to our own devices.
Come back
And,
and cigarettes.
Yeah, smell like cigarettes, and somehow my chemistry homework was magically done without me having any knowledge of being able to do it.
It'd be rude to talk about him on here, but he said something to me one time that just really made me mad.
Yeah, he was-
Teacher, so I mean,
They pulled me aside.
Yeah.
It was close to the end of the year and tried to convince me to do AP chemistry. And like I said, if I'm challenged, cool, but I'm also lazy. I looked and said, "Do I have to take extra classes?" Yep, I'm out.
Not for me. Yeah, they probably didn't think there would be a time of our lives, after kind of treating us poorly, that we would have the upper hand. We've got the whole universe of YouTube to talk crap about them
Oh,
sneaking
man.
away and
Yeah.
smoking cigarettes. He's probably retired now, though, so he probably doesn't even care. So, yeah, I don't really remember what happened. I remember walking up to you, talking to you about it. I remember you telling me later on that I was the first person to talk to you outside of football, which I thought was kind of funny. And but I never really was one to be intimidated by anybody. And I was like, man, we need a big dude for the group. So we kind of latched together. And
Who's the biggest guy in the school? Oh, the new kid.
yeah.
He's mysterious.
So we started hanging out. It all started with, I guess, chemistry, and then me, you, and Jeff used to go hang out and get in all kinds of trouble. Throughout high school, we became pretty good friends.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you kind of got taken into my group, so to speak. And we always couldn't hang out as much as we probably wanted to. You had football, I had basketball, and so I mean that's understandable. And you left post high school and went and tried to play football after that. And I went out to college and lived away from my parents, which was probably a bad idea, and raised all kinds of hell. So
I know. I lived with it for a while.
but we both kind of can't talk about that with David here. David's got a sketchy. So but
couple close calls there.
one really bad one. But so you kind of go up north for a while. How long were you in school for?
Almost a semester.
Almost. See, I made it a year and a half. It's not quite
It was almost a semester. I got hurt in the inter squad scrimmage, had surgery, and the medicine that put me on the crutches uphill, and it rained the entire week after I had surgery. It was almost impossible for me to go to class.
Yeah.
So they ended up kicking me out of the dorms and almost pretty much forcing me to drop out.
So I don't specifically remember what surgery you had.
Right meniscus.
Right
I
meniscus.
removed scar tissue from 3 tears and then removed the 4th tear.
Yeah. So if you had just kind of stuck with it, that probably would have been 4 to 6 week injury.
Something like that.
So Mike, you're so close. So, but anyways, not to dwell on the past, you went and did the college thing. You got to experience, I guess, NCAA football at a certain degree. And then from there, me and Gross and everybody's up at Eastern kind of doing our own thing, most likely not going to class, obviously, because none of us got a degree out of it.
We're working at Popeyes.
Yeah, working at Popeyes, yeah. So, we did hang out a little bit after that, but, we kind of ended up going our separate ways somewhat, so to speak. You kind of had a little bit of trouble, and I eventually thought it would be a good idea to drop out of college thinking I would go back. And, of course, we all know now that nobody ever goes back. So, I kind of doing the working man thing, and I don't think that did you work any of those places with me other than
Popeyes, Sonic.
So you worked at Sonic too. Were you working at Sonic till the bitter end, or you left before me, didn't you?
No, I left after you.
Okay.
Because you went to go work at the body shop.
Yeah. So I went into a different industry, and I guess you stayed there for a while, and eventually I was offered a job with a company, and I decided to kind of take you with me, which I've never really thanked you for, but I really appreciate it because God knows what would have
I don't
happened.
think I never thanked you either. No. This is actually a funny story too. You find out you're moving to Owensboro.
Yeah.
Like, man, you got nothing going. Why don't you just come with this? Man, I got this job, and it really never would have gone anywhere. It was maybe not even a week later, they fired me for, I believe it was not wiping down the backsplashes on the sink or something stupid like that. They were just, I don't know.
That's day one stuff, Mike.
I know.
God.
And so the next day I was like, hey, so when are we leaving for Owensboro? You're like, what do you mean we? I was like, you told me you thought it'd be a good idea for me to move with you. But what about your job? Yeah, I got fired. Oh, okay, we leave in a week.
Well, that's really good too, because you don't really realize, even if you're moving 30 minutes away or 40 an hour, 2 hours, whatever, how hard it is, like as an adult, to make friends, especially when you're working a different job with different people that aren't your age and stuff. So I mean, yeah, you guys are both pretty lucky in that way.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. So we both. You moved out there with me. We had a super nice flat apartment. We met a bunch of cool people that we can no longer remember.
Adam,
Yeah.
miss your
Hey,
man.
Adam, we don't remember your last name, but if you remember us and you happen upon this YouTube video, then you need to holler at us, because that's seriously the case. We don't remember anybody's name. So
There was Scott who had rosacea and yelled at me multiple times because I would get drunk.
He's like,
and
"Why are you
say,
so-
man, are you really drunk? Your cheeks red. I have rosacea, asshole."
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Not bad.
And so, and then we met Brad across the way, and we met a bunch of good people there. And,
Couple crazy ones.
It wasn't really you kind of walked to a bunch of different places. I remember that. And then I eventually just kind of relinquished my Jeep to you during the daytime. And so I remember you first got a job at a restaurant, which is kind of the same old. But our lives really took off when you started doing what I would say was your calling at the time of bouncing.
And that was funny too, because we went to the bar for my birthday, and it was like a week before my birthday or something like that. And we'd been there a couple times, and the head of security was a real cool dude. Everybody called him Big Dog. Big old black dude, probably mid 40s, early 50s, from Compton. Not even playing, from Compton. And he's like, man, do you need a job? I was like, dude, I've tried to get a job here. He's like, dog, you just need to come talk to me. And I was pretty much hired on the spot, and it just went from there.
And that's the last time we ever paid a cover charge anywhere in town.
Pretty much. Like, I was supposed to work a double for New Year's Eve, and I was also starting at the bar New Year's Eve. So I had a really easy choice. I'm going to go to the bar.
So we had a lot of good times, and kind of bouncing really opened up our social lives. Because we got to, like I said, go in anywhere and basically not pay cover charges and stuff. And I remember at times it kind of got us in trouble. I think one of the best stories was the time that we entered the beer pong contest.
Which time?
No. This was the weekday one. The weekday.
Yeah, I know. It was every Monday.
Yeah, but I don't.
You didn't go out that much because you had an adult job.
I had a 9 to 5. So I remember one night we went out, and I don't think it was a Monday though. I think it was something special. Like, we didn't know that there was anything going on. It was like a Wednesday or Thursday.
Might have been. Every Monday they had a beer pong tournament that I entered in with Steve the Pirate.
Yeah.
And we'd end up getting almost we get to the finals, and then we'd be too drunk to finish.
Yeah. He couldn't play through it. But I remember going in there. They were doing a beer pong tournament, and you're like yelling. I'm like, why not? And so I remember starting it, and we just keep winning and winning and winning and winning. And I just remember looking over my shoulder and realizing it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Didn't we win that tournament?
I don't know.
I know we went to the finals. I don't remember if we won or lost.
I don't know. I swear I don't remember to this day. I don't even really know how we got
Those
home.
beer pong tournaments got me in some trouble. I remember one of them in particular, me and Steve the Pirate, get to the finals, lose, then drive the 45 minutes from Owensboro to Eddsville to the casino to go see some people we worked with. They started having a mental breakdown. I was like, okay, see ya, and drove back.
So yeah, but that was a fun night that we were still able to be kids. And so we had a lot of fun, and then I came back with a pregnant girlfriend to Florence because we moved from Owensboro to Florence, and so at that point in time, you went back into the restaurant business, and we didn't obviously have as good a social life as we did before.
Working 2 jobs, and then just pretty much saying, "Hey, what do you want to do tonight?"
Yeah, we were
So
old
hopefully
people.
David and Colton come down
Yeah,
this weekend.
I forgot about
Pretty
that.
much.
Yeah,
I ask them about every Tuesday. Hey, Gravy and Colton coming up? I don't know. You need to find out.
And so I still kept doing the 9 to 5 thing, and at this point in time, you kind of moved away for a little while. Lived in Colorado.
Yeah, we had a minor falling out that a lot of people blew out of proportion. Thought like we hated each other. Like, what are you talking about? I just talked to him yesterday.
I hate him still. I mean, it's
You don't get a lot.
Yeah.
We had a minor fall, and I was in Cleveland in a movie, and he called me, cussing me out. I was like, all right, cool.
I would never do anything like that.
No, and I'm a nice guy. So I come back from Cleveland, and we don't talk for like 3 days, and I was actually talking with my cousin at the time about moving back to Cleveland, and my mom and my uncle like conference called me. They did. They 3-way called me. I was like, is this even still a thing?
They shut it down.
No, they're like, we've been talking about you moving out to Denver for a long time. Why don't you just come out here? Stay with us, get a job, and okay.
So how long did you live in Denver?
I'd say probably about 1 year and 3 months.
Yeah, and I remember you called and basically said, I'm ready to come back, and we kind of facilitated you being able to come back, and then you kind of got back into the bouncing world for a couple years?
Pretty much the better part of the last 8-9 years.
See Mike almost every weekend at different bars. Like, man, you work everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
I was standing invites in those bars in this town.
Yeah, and so it was pretty sweet again because everybody knew Mike in that world, and we always got put on lists in cool places, and got to go do
Concerts
things. But me and Dave were kind of talking, and I was hoping maybe you had a couple good bouncing stories. I know of one in particular. I don't know if it'll come up, and if it doesn't, then I'll
You're more welcome to start it, and I'll finish it.
I just remember the one where you didn't recognize Rajon Rondo, and he got really ticked off.
Oh, yeah. So I was working at a local gentleman's club, and this was around the time of the NBA strike. And so UK figured it'd be a good idea to put on UK pros versus the Dominican Republic pro team. And so we had a lot of old UK players and people who, I guess, were from the Dominican Republic. Met a lot of them. They're really cool guys. And here comes this nice, brand new 4-door Porsche little crossover SUV thing.
Yeah. And this is a consistent story because that's the same thing you told me last.
Ask everybody for their IDs, and everybody shows them. And then here's this little itty bitty bastard, probably all this tall, has a hat on, so I don't even see his face. On his phone, hey man, I need your ID. Really? Oh shit, no, you're good.
But the last story that I heard was a little bit more animated. That he got really upset about it.
He did. I guess he's not used to getting ID'd, but it's whatever. Kind of the law.
And so, I figured that you would probably have more than that. We're gonna have to start writing these down. What we need to do is do a full podcast with just Mike bouncing stories because there's been so many good ones over the years. I can't even remember. I didn't get to see a lot of it obviously because I was working the job and
Ooh, I got one.
I never even got to enjoy all the fun.
One of my favorite ones. Bad night though because it was
Sit down on his knee, David. Let him tell you this.
It was like UK lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. So everyone's drunk, upset.
Don't mention any names, by the way.
I don't even know this dude's name.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a different.
That was a bad night.
It was. Well, the bar that I worked at, we happened to have neon-colored polos that on the back of it, in 4-inch letters, say, "I work here." And we had a natural choke point at our bar. And I'm carrying a couple...
For ambushes.
I'm carrying a couple of pint glasses. Come up and obviously I can't get through. I yell, excuse... I don't even yell at a loud voice. I just say, excuse me. These people here, I know. So they scoot over. There's this much room. I'm fat. I'm not fitting through this much room. So I say it again. And this little frat boy prick goes, and back to his conversation. So very politely and nice, I put my hand in the middle of his back and just eased him over.
He little brothered him is what he's trying to say.
Just eased him over, and I proceeded to walk through. He threw his elbow in the middle of my back. I was like, huh. Turned around, my still holding glasses. Do it again, I'll kick shit out of you. Really? Yeah. Really? Yeah. He proceeded to take a step and get halfway through the word really before I threw him over 3 bourbon barrels. Proceeds to take another step after he composes himself and says, what the fuck? And that's when he gets shoved through the door and fell on his ass. And I walked outside and go, really? Walk back inside. Had a guy come after me with a baseball bat. Multiple drinks thrown on me. Shoes thrown at me.
That's about women, though. We're talking about.
Oh no, not just women. I've had guys throw drinks on me.
Where'd you get the baseball bat, dude?
From his car.
He told Mike.
Can, like a
he told Mike he was going.
ECW match. He's got like.
He told Mike he was going to pop his trunk, and he comes back in with a baseball bat.
Don't make me pop the trunk.
Oh, that was a horrible night. Horrible night.
Did you grab the baseball bat like this?
Well, no, actually, I had a friend who
Did he bend it?
I had a friend who was extremely drunk sitting on a bourbon barrel, and she couldn't even sit up straight without falling. So I'm holding her up. I've already punked this kid out in front of everybody, and he's embarrassed. Some people walking this way to his car. Well, his car's that way. And he proceeds, his friends grab him at this point and go to walk him up this way. The guys I work with, I would say,
you notice he's got it down. He's like, he proceeds, like he's got it down like in his notes that way in case it's ever
well, they're like rich frat guys. They're probably like, I'm telling my father. Practice in here for times.
Well, his friends go and get him and walk him up to their car. And I look at one of the guys I work with and said, he's going to get away from me and run after me. And run towards me. He's like, what are you going to do? He's like, if he runs towards me at full speed, I'm a Spartan kick him in the chest. Well, he gets away from him and runs at me full speed. Stops about from me to you, which is what, about 8-9 feet?
Yeah.
Walks up to me, looks up, literally like this, and goes, turns around and walks away. Goes to his car and gets a baseball bat.
Was it wood or aluminum?
Wood. Proceeds to come back, and one of the guys working is like, hey, Mike, just so you know, I'm going to spear him, but he's come back with a bat. Like, if I let her go, she's falling. Just call the cops. Well, he gets up to the first barrel and sees 8 people stand in front of him and say, you really want to do this? He turned around and walked away.
Yeah, I would too.
So
there's some other stories I really can't go into on camera.
Looking back, did you ever think about pulling a Donkey Kong and just like picking up one of those barrels?
No, but I have picked up multiple people and thrown them.
The barrels are too expensive.
Yeah.
Those
are a couple $100.
Yeah.
So you kind of got out of the bouncing life though, and you know you got a new kind of career path. But what do you think's kind of the future holds for the fish? You've had an injury lately that you're kind of dealing with, so you're not 100%.
I have no idea. So I'm just kind of going where the wind takes me right now. I'm Pocahontas in it.
Just free birding it, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah, but Mother Nature, she can't hook the fish.
They can't hook the fish.
You gotta remember that was the first night. I remember, Mike. There were 6 or 8 guys on you at the same time. And you just like did this move, and they all just like flew off.
He's doing the JJ Watt swim move.
It was like one of those swing rides at the fair, but all the like chains broke at once. It just went like all in different directions.
And I remember Mike became the king of them at that point because that's all they understood was physical dominance, and they went around yelling, "You can't hook the fish! You can't hook the fish!" for an entire weekend.
They wouldn't look at me.
Oh, I about killed them.
That was the beginning of your bouncing career right there, and you didn't even know it.
That was the night that those same guys played Laying Down Under all night long. I
remember that. Now those same guys I almost killed that summer on a trip. Because we're in a charter bus down to Texas, nonstop.
And they did a Lion King every morning at sunrise.
At sunrise, they start singing the opening theme from the Lion King, and I about killed every one of them.
And he's probably threw some of them out of the bar at some point in time. He just doesn't want to talk about it.
Actually, one of them I knocked out.
See, I told you. So the future is unclear for the fish, but hopefully we can continue to do fun stuff like this. I know you've helped out a lot. You've been hunting with me, and we've kind of had some good times in the blind, although we haven't really seen a whole lot. I remember one time I still had this little tiny pop-up blind, which is probably not much bigger than the
first time I ever went with you? Jeez, that was horrible.
It's hilarious. It was freezing cold, and Mike goes hunting with me.
It's a half-person tent.
It's probably like...
it's probably one of those ones that say they're 2 people.
No, it's...
one of those?
No, we legitimately could have said in there 2 people, but there's more to the story.
Oh, okay.
So we walked back there. This is probably my 2nd year of hunting, I would think. Maybe 3rd. So I was pretty new to it, but you know, I don't really like going back there and spending time with myself. I think I'm kind of the more the merrier guy. That's why I have a 10x6 dog kennel blind now, because we can get 4 or 5 people in there and have fun and enjoy it, which I think you know,
Helps the
needs.
downtime a lot better.
We'll have to do it in a few weeks. Buffalo season's coming up.
Yeah, you guys ain't coming with me for that. It's no, but seriously, I enjoy having other people there, and me and Mike had talked about it different times, and I finally talked him into coming, and you know, we go to bed early, or we probably stayed up too late. Actually, stayed up too late, and we get up. And like I'm all gung ho about it, and we get back there to the blind, and it's unzips. It's probably 4 foot tall, so you got this giant dude. And
Pretty sure I'm bouncing this time, so I came after work.
Yeah, probably so.
And I ended up not getting any sleep.
Yeah, because I remember
miserable 6 hours of my life.
I remember talking to Mike about it, because it's a funny story too. When we lived in Owensboro, Mike was bouncing, and I was playing golf pretty heavily back then. I was like, Mike, you to come play golf with me, and it was like his second time ever going. And we went and bought 5-hour energies, and he's just sitting there and just pounding them like they're shots. He's like, these things do nothing for me. And so I was talking to him that night that we went hunting. I'm like, man, you want an energy drink? And he's like, no, it'll just make me mad. And so we get back there, and it's a pretty small, 4 foot tall, probably 4 foot wide, maybe 6 foot wide. And so I unzip it, we climb in, and Mike's got to like climb in and monkey roll in.
One chair, and he's in the middle of the whole thing.
Dude, you're running the story. And so I get there, and I set up my chair, and I sit down, and I'm like, oh crap, Mike, I forgot a chair. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I forgot your chair, bro. And so I sat in the middle of the blind where I could see out, and Mike just kind of sat down on the ground, like right here, and I'm like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? I'm like, Mike, there's a deer right there. He's like, really? And so he's got to like kind of sit up like that. It was ridiculous. So we came pretty far since then. Because you went coyote hunting with me last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it last year?
Coyote hunting, turkey hunting. Didn't go deer hunting.
You went turkey hunting? Maybe fall turkey?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because we got out there and there was 4 deer within 10 feet of us.
That happens every time we go turkey hunting.
Us too.
Yeah, every time you go turkey hunting, you see deer. Every time you go deer hunting, you see turkey. That's just how it works. So, but yeah, you've been a big part of it. You filmed my last shooting video, which hopefully we're gonna do more of those, and hopefully you can film them and just do a bunch of different stuff. And so I appreciate all of the stuff that you've done so far. I appreciate you being on the podcast. And hopefully we can do more of it. So I think we're going to talk about some current events now, though. So
so first we'll talk about just if you want to get like a quick rundown recap of UFC and Bellator.
Yeah. So Bellator, I kind of talked about. Did you see either one of them, by the way?
No, I didn't.
No highlights or anything. Oh well. Look at this guy. So Bellator was the lighter weight guys. I had kind of said previously that I wasn't really that interested in it.
Yeah.
I still watched the fights. Nothing really blew my hair back, but except for the main event. They actually crowned a new champion, a dude named Caldwell. It was the first time I seen him fight, and pretty impressed with him. So interested to see how his division plays out. He seemed like he was very dynamic. I mean, picking up dudes, slamming them, which is kind of, you don't see that a whole lot in the 145-pound division. So, pretty exciting fighter. He looked like, he was just kind of getting into the sport. So I feel like he could be really dynamic, kind of moving down the road. And I really need to do a better job of keeping up with the lighter weights, especially in Bellator. I kind of just glaze over those fights. I don't get into them as much as I do like 155 pounds and above. So it wasn't my cup of tea, but it's something I'm trying with. I'm trying to appreciate the lighter weight guys. I've just had a hard time, and I think that's the reason I haven't really got into the ladies' fights as much, is because so many times you watch these fights and they just go to decision, just continuously decision every time, and you kind of want some type of ability to finish the fights, and so a lot of times the smaller divisions lack that, but I feel like they put on some pretty good fights, and then the UFC. Really want to talk about as well the ratings and stuff, and I sent you a text about it.
Yeah.
UFC 215 did 100,000 buys, which was the ladies' main event that was supposed to be Mighty Mouse versus Borg. It only did 100,000 buys, and then the one on last weekend only did 120,000 buys. And we had talked about the heavyweight fight being intriguing. Well, Derek Lewis gets hurt. He has to pull off the card. They put a last-minute substitute in for for Verdum to fight, and he beats him in a matter of seconds, basically. So that was a pretty big disappointment because it really didn't build Verdum for the title or anything. And that's kind of the Derek Lewis-Verdum fight could have been something that kind of pushed those guys to the title. So you didn't even get that out of it. And then the Mighty Mouse Borg fight is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was a sparring contest for Mighty Mouse. He hand-selected that fight. He surpassed or passed up taking a fight with Dillashaw, which I think would have been a very competitive fight for his record-breaking performance. But I just think he wanted an easy fight to get that Anderson Silva record. So he accomplished it. I don't think he built his brand at all. I don't think he built the UFC at all. It didn't really make sense, and I think that the UFC ought to draw a hard line and be like, look, dude, you're fighting the winner of Dillashaw and Garbrandt. There's no other ifs, ands, or about because you cleaned out this division. There's nobody that can give you a competitive fight here. You need to move up or have a catchweight fight because it doesn't make sense for the UFC to continue to give him guys that he can easily beat. It just doesn't build anybody's brand. Everybody's calling him the greatest all time, but he's never fought a real champion. A lot of these guys are one of the dudes he fought was like 6-1 whenever he fought him for the title fight. I mean, the 125-pound division just hasn't had time to build, and it's not going to build with him just continuously cleaning house. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't have a.
Do you think it's because UFC likes leverage over him? Because we've kind of talked about the lack of star power that they had, and ratings are low. I mean, are they at the will of Well, are they at his whatever he wants to do, or is that kind of what they have to do? You think, or is it just partially they want to protect him? Or
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what brought upon that last fight.
Yeah.
He kind of decided that it was going to be Ray Borg. They offered him the Dillashaw fight. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
He said, if I'm going to take this fight, I want a bunch of money. They offered him a bunch of money, and he still ended up turning it down. And I think he knew it was a hard fight for him. I think he wanted to get the Anderson Silva record. I think he likes to call himself the greatest of all time, but Anderson Silva went up to 205 pounds. He's fighting guys that were established champions, and Mighty Mouse doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just not as significant, and I think the public interest in him shows that. I think he's got being a lighter weight guy at 125 pounds. He actually finishes fights, so that gives him some type of edge, or he's finishing fights now. And I just don't think that people are interested in seeing him fight a guy that they know he can easily beat. It'd be much more, impressive for him to go up and beat a Dillashaw or a Garbrandt and kind of build that brand. So he got an easy fight. He pulled off a cool submission. I mean, that's great. Everybody's calling him the greatest of all time. He's not my greatest of all time. He's definitely a very skilled fighter. He's probably one of the greatest lighter weight fighters, definitely the greatest 125-pound fighter of all time. But there's just not a lot of guys in that division. There's not a lot of building in it, and I think eventually it could get there, but it's a relatively new division for the UFC. It's not as established as 135 pounds, 145 pounds, so it's just going to take time, and eventually it'll catch up to him. But for the time being, there's nobody that sticks out to me that he needs to fight other than the winner of Garbrandt versus Dillashaw. So I think that could be a pretty compelling fight, and it actually might do pay-per-view numbers. Because this is one of the first times he's actually been towards the top of the pay-per-view card. He's usually on free TV, and the ratings are even worse than 120,000.
Yeah,
so the main event, it seemed like it was kind of a little bit back and forth. Lee had a good performance, but he ended up getting finished by Ferguson. Just completely lost my train of thought. But he ended up getting finished by Ferguson in a triangle. I saw Ferguson winning the fight. I really couldn't see a scenario with Lee. Lee had weight cutting issues on top of the fact that I thought he was kind of outgunned in the fight. But it seemed like from the highlights and stuff that I saw, he did very well on the feet, kind of tagging Ferguson and taking him down at will as well. But Ferguson's jiu-jitsu and experience just kind of paid off in the later rounds as Lee started to fade, probably with those weight cutting issues and everything like that. So I actually predicted both of those fights right, but I'm not changing my mind. Still no more predictions from this point for me. Only kind of a breakdown of the fights. So, but UFC 217 is coming up. I'm really excited for that card. It seemed like the UFC is actually getting the message, and they're putting on good cards for the rest of the year. So I feel like that we're going to have a lot more to talk about towards the end of the year with those fights, putting out a lot better quality than the last two. And I just refuse to pay for those cards, and I don't want to pirate them. I don't want to stream them because I don't want to cheat them even. I just feel like that they need to get the message. They need to understand that you can't just put a card out for the sake of putting a card out. You're gonna have to put some pretty good fighters on there to make us buy it. And 100,000, 120,000. I mean, that's bottom of the barrel pay-per-view wise. I mean, I can't imagine the ratings being much worse than that.
With Bellator on rise, it's free to watch on Spike or whatever. Do you foresee like them kind of doing what WWE did? Because they've already got their streaming network. You and I were talking about that the other day.
You talking about UFC?
Yeah. They already have the Fight Pass. Do you think that they would include it on like the pay-per-views onto it eventually?
I don't see how they could.
This is such a huge cut of money for them.
Yeah, I don't think that they could. I don't think the sponsors or anything would like that personally. Because you're kind of alienating just the people that stream them. I mean, you have so many different ways to get the fight with cable and DirecTV and everything. You know, not everybody's going to want to stream it. I know I personally wouldn't. Fight Pass is something that I've been somewhat interested in because the UFC bought out Pride, and so you've got the entire Pride archives as well. But I don't see it going that way because so many of these guys make a lot of their living off pay-per-view points, and if you take that away from those guys, then you're taking out a large portion of their income, and you kind of the stars that you do have. You're talking about the lack of stars. The stars that you do have, that's such a bonus for them to kind of build themselves and build the company to get those pay-per-view revenue numbers. If you take that away from them, I don't think it would be very good for the sport at all. So no, I don't. Even with Bellator on the rise, I think Bellator is going to do more pay-per-views. I think Bellator has the advantage of only doing a couple pay-per-views a year and putting together some really stacked cards.
Yeah, so that could be a better option for like kind of emulate their model maybe.
Kind of what UFC used to do.
Yeah.
One every couple months.
UFC needs to back off of it. They really do. They don't need to be putting out as many things because they're really just they're watering down their product. There's no way that you can expect people to buy those cards. I mean, it seemed like with regularity with Conor and with GSP and with Ronda, they're doing 1 million plus buys on pay-per-view. And it's just a sad state of affairs whenever your last two did 220,000, combined. So I feel like it's a bad state, but like I said, you got UFC 217 GSP coming back. That's a really good card. We're actually going to do a podcast on it. That's going to be coming up October 27th, and we're doing that with Jeremy Gross. So excited to have him on. We seem like to be the only two GSP fans left in our group, so we're gonna.
That's not true.
We're gonna lock down the opinions on that one. So give you straight biased opinion.
We'll have Mike do a call in.
Mike do a call in and talk crap.
Yeah.
What else you got, bud?
Well, this is probably my favorite topics. It's something really weird, but it's one of the best all-time baseball coaches. We don't really talk about baseball much.
Yeah.
But, it being in the postseason, and we're talking about who my granny calls the toothpick man. I was a huge Reds. I still am a huge Reds fan. You're a Nats fan, so this is a pretty interesting subject. But is there a curse on Dusty Baker? Is there a curse of Dusty Baker?
1,000% chance that there's a curse on Dusty Baker. My brother, he's got really involved in fantasy baseball this year and watched a ton of games. I think he might even had like a subscription to some type of MLB channel. But I would get bombarded with these texts, earlier on in the season about how good the Nationals were. And I'm like, Colton, you don't understand what Dusty Baker is going to do to them in the playoffs. I was like, they have no chance. He's going to choke. He's going to somehow mess this up. No Dusty Baker coached team ever gets far in the playoffs. And, you brought up the point of how many good hitters that he had,
And some of the best of all time, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Joey Votto.
Just look at that Daniel Murphy, Jason Worth, Bryce Harper, just a murderer's row of dudes on that team, and you still can't put it all together. And then, you're talking about the hitters, and now you're talking about having Strasburg and Scherzer this year, and it still can't make it happen.
Kerry Wood with the Cubs at the time, he was the best pitcher in baseball. And, Johnny Cueto.
But the dude always ends up with a job. He always ends up.
Well, he's a great coach. Besides,
fantastic
stuff.
Yeah, and maybe it's what you're talking about. Maybe he rides the veterans too far. That's a pretty solid point because Scherzer got in pretty bad trouble last night, and I think he just left him in because he's Max Scherzer.
Yeah, that's what, like, we're talking about Jason Worth. He played the whole series, struggled the whole series.
Yeah, and eventually the run that he dove for a ball last night, it just went right past him, and that's eventually the run that cost him the game too.
Yeah, but I don't really necessarily think that makes him, that was a bad mistake by him, because, I mean, it was just one or two errors you can think of. From last night, it was just like a freak thing. Like, I'm for sure the Nationals. That's why I'm starting to believe that this curse is real. Out of the 700 all-time MLB managers, Dusty Baker has the 15th best record. So I mean, think about all the baseball coaches since the 1800s. He's the 15th best one.
Gravy coming with the fire, right?
But
and it seems to be like a postseason thing though.
Yeah.
I mean, I sent you the stat that he's 0-10 in the last 10 closeout games, and it's just something about the postseason that his guys can't get to the next level. Because I was a Reds fan back then. I supported the Reds for a long time, and now I'm kind of at a point in my life where I need something different. I was a Reds fan and a Cowboys fan, and I just couldn't handle that depression anymore. So I kind of latched on to players, and Trout and Harper were coming up. So those are two guys that I really like to watch play, and it's so heartbreaking to see it year after year. Just the same thing play out over and over and over again.
Dusty Baker has such bad luck. Like, when you think of curses and stuff, you always thought about the Cubs and the Steve Barton thing. He was the coach then. It's just I don't know. It's just so many bad things. But I mean, part of his coaching was the reason why they lost that anyways that time. But some of the Reds ones, I don't know. It's just he turned around the Reds big time. He turned around the Giants pretty big. I think he was they had most improved year for a coach in his first season at a club. Was his first season with the Giants. He just had so much success, but just everything goes wrong for him somehow. I don't know. I mean, he has made bad coaching decisions. People say that, the Jason Worth thing, what we were talking about, he chooses veterans over better guys. Like him starting Scott Rowland over Todd Frazier in 2013. I mean, in hindsight, it does seem stupid, but I would probably do the same thing if I was.
Rowland had a pretty good regular season, though.
It was his last year.
Yeah.
Really good. He's the guy that won the World Series with the Phillies. He's a veteran.
Proven commodity.
Yeah. I would go with him over that. I think that's unfair criticism, but I mean, I think the curse is real.
I think the curse is real as well, and I never expected anything different. I mean, the Nationals this year, like I said, you look at that lineup and you're like, man, how could anybody compete with this? I mean, they should be going to the World Series easy, but it's those things that are intangible that you can't really touch that
the old stuff this year. Yeah. I still don't really understand what happened with that. I don't know if you guys have better insight on that.
No.
Strasburg wasn't supposed to pitch that day and then ended up pitching somehow and worked out well for him.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The curse is definitely real.
Talking about curses, what about my city?
Yeah. Well,
that's a good point.
You had Kyrie Irving, and then you ruined that. So
somehow the Yankees beat them 3 games in a row. That's just crazy because you got to think the Indians. They're such a good team, probably the best team in the MLB this year.
They have the best pitching rotation.
Was it Aaron Judge? He was top 5 in the MLB WAR this year. I think he struck out 16 out of his 20 bats in the Indian series, and
Yeah, he only had one hit the whole series.
Yeah. And the Yankees still won 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Didi Gregorius was the guy last game.
See, that's one thing I thought where they messed up. Yeah, Kluber's an ace, but at the same time, you're having to go off of 3 days rest.
Yeah.
And you had it scheduled that way.
But most guys, that's the playoffs. So it's
it's playoffs.
That's how they have to do it.
And
Kluber's the guy, too.
He is. I love Kluber. He's hands down probably the best in baseball right now. But look at him, Game 7 of the World Series last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at him, Game 5 of this year.
But if they didn't pitch him that day, they'd have been like, why did you pitch Kluber? But, I mean, looking back, it's just that, the Cleveland curse, I would say is real, but, Cavs won the championship a couple years ago.
Cavs don't count.
That was all Kyrie.
Yeah.
Now that he's gone, it's over with. Forget about it.
Yeah, the curse is back because LeBron's going to leave again.
Yeah, for sure. He's gone. So is his legacy.
Who do y'all have winning the World Series this year?
Houston.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know, man.
Houston or Dodgers?
I was gonna say.
I think
if y'all are gonna take Houston, I'll have to take the Dodgers.
Altuve is on a tear, man.
That's gonna be the World Series. Is gonna be Houston and Dodgers.
I told you I'd say my love letter for Altuve today. I mean, that guy, 5'6". He's from Venezuela, and he came to training camp. They said, "You're too short. Don't come back." Showed back up the next day. Played minor league ball down the road. Crushed it.
You said he wouldn't leave, right?
He
just
kept
back,
showing up. He
up.
came back the next day. And
they're like, "No, we don't want you," and he's like, just keeps coming back.
Yeah, he was a byproduct of that. One of the biggest tank jobs in MLB history. They just threw him out there. They're like, "We don't care if we win or not." But it paid off for him both ways. I mean,
right.
They ended up getting the draft picks for Springer and Correa.
Yeah, the whole Astros, the way that they did everything was just crazy. I mean, the way that they put those draft picks together. Yeah.
And then, Altuve was never meant to be MVP, which he could very well be this year. He's won like 3 batting titles, hasn't he, in like the last 5 years? Yeah.
I haven't been watching baseball.
It's crazy because, like I said,
he's a baseball man.
Met Brandon Phillips once. He's listed at 6 foot tall, and he was like, probably the same height as me. I'm 5'8".
But in his cleats, he's 6 foot tall.
Yeah, so I mean, I wonder how tall Altuve really is.
5'4". Yeah, he's got those model secrets.
Yeah. So that we talked about that. We can kind of move over to the Cleveland Curse, talk about the Browns.
Let's not.
Let's not. Yeah.
This is your opportunity. We talked about on the podcast about how every year you're like, dude, this is the year. And
I stopped that years ago.
Yeah, but
that's what I told him the last podcast. That Mike and I,
I'm a diehard Browns fan. I'm a realist. They're horrible.
But I had to listen to it for years. That was my point.
You did, yeah.
I had to listen to it every
year.
I
still believe
this
in
the
year,
man.
I still believe in the rebuild, man.
And Kellen, you can keep trying. I will never convert from the Browns. You've tried as long as I've known you.
Sooner or later, attrition will get you.
No.
When the Browns move to San Diego.
The San Diego Browns, that rolls off the tongue.
Stings the nostrils. All right, what do you got next? Just want to roll into NFL?
Yeah, we can roll into NFL from here. What do you got this week on the NFL?
I don't know, man. My fantasy team's still doing, it's kind of up and down. I kind of got lucky and escaped with my life last week. But I'm nervous this week because I think I was sending messages back and forth to a couple of people, and I think Brady's hurt right now. I think I could tell in the Thursday night game that he wasn't healthy. Now, granted, he had a little bit more time to recover, but I'm kind of torn because him and Alex Smith are averaging the same right now. And Brady's on the road against the Jets, and Alex Smith's at home versus Pittsburgh. So, I got a hard decision to make this week. But
I'd take Brady over the Jets.
Yeah.
Well,
Pittsburgh's defense hasn't really proven itself like it usually does. I mean.
Yeah, and
Browns game.
Alex Smith has so many weapons. But as far as the actual NFL setting fantasy aside, I mean, I just feel like it's a coming out party for a lot of these really young players. I feel like, Goff, who struggled a lot last year, I feel like he's looked really good this year. And, St. Louis is kind of or St. Louis, oh my God. Los Angeles is kind of making a little bit.
Rest of my life.
Making 2 years ago.
Yeah. Making a little bit of a comeback here and kind of reinserting themselves in the conversation. And, the Eagles were really impressive last night.
Yeah.
I was super proud that before our fantasy league got disbanded that Jerry was running, my draft picks were Michael Thomas and Carson Wentz. And I actually traded for Jared Goff. I traded Giovanni Bernard for Jared Goff. So I had Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and Tom Brady last year.
My honest opinion, I didn't think Carson. I mean, he still may not. I mean, he's had flashes of greatness this year. I mean, I didn't think he would be that great.
That pass last night that he dropped on a dime right over the top. I mean, that was a pretty good flash.
Carson Wentz, let me tell you about it.
Boom.
If I was still coaching the Buccaneers.
Yeah, but I think it's a kind of a changing of the guard, so to speak. You got the Patriots kind of struggling. I don't think the Packers are that great this year. The Seahawks have been down for the last couple years. The Broncos aren't as good. I mean, so I think it's kind of wide open this year. I mean, I think a lot of things can happen. I think ultimately death taxes Patriots win. So I mean, those are the things that are certain in life. So I think the Patriots will probably end up coming back and winning the division, having a pretty good playoff run. But
I don't know who else would be the clear favorite right now. Like, I've thought about it.
yeah, it's hard to say.
I don't believe in, a lot of these teams. I don't
Especially now with the NFC and you got the Ezekiel Elliott suspension,
Yeah.
Um,
But that offensive line, I think that anybody could have.
yeah, that's what I always say.
Yeah, they could plug just.
Darren McFadden's going to still go for 1,000
Yeah.
yards behind it.
And I thought,
So,
for trading it.
did you get your first win this week?
I got my first win this week. I think Cam Newton stayed on my bench last week still, and I started Phillip Rivers and somehow won. But,
Yeah.
I'll take a win.
Fish has got a pretty good team this year.
It's not too bad.
Yeah. He's one of the few guys that's actually traded with me, and I finally got.
And I don't do a lot of trades.
I finally got Ty off of his hands, and Ty had a really good week. But then Zach Ertz has had 2 really good weeks for you. So how many points did he have last night in our league?
I don't remember.
He's the best tight end.
Yeah, I know he had 2 touchdowns.
Season and a half.
Yeah.
Tight end's a position I can never figure out. I put a waiver claim for Dixon this week. Didn't get it.
I
got my McKinnon waiver.
Yeah, I put a waiver in for Dixon too, and I didn't get him. I just was really thin at wide receiver, and I needed another wide receiver. And this week's an anomaly because I'm actually starting 3 wide receivers. I'm starting Chris Hogan, Michael Thomas, and T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, you got Thomas off me too.
Yeah, I sure did. But Thomas hasn't played well this year, so it was looking like a pretty smart trade. But I don't think
really.
I think that's the best part about this season is the young guy, like the changing of the guard, like you said. Like I was talking to your brother the other day, and he said that all the games are boring to him. I was like, have you been watching any of the games?
Well, I think what you have to remember is that some of us only have a certain number of channels, especially my brother.
I do. I get.
I found the primetime game boring though. I mean, especially the Thursday night.
I didn't watch the Monday Giants game, but last night's game I liked.
Last night's game was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was better. They have a really big penalty problem on Thursday night. I think everybody's kind of sloppy on Thursdays, and it kind of bogs the game down.
I mean, Cam Newton had another bad night, and I started him. So
3 picks. Good job, gravy.
I mean, he still got 20 points.
Who are you playing this week?
I can't remember who I'm playing this week, actually. I'm playing Dreams this week, and I'm projected to beat him by 1 point. I've lost the last 2, or the last one I lost by 1 point, and then the one I won by 2 points. So it's been pretty close for me.
Yeah, and I thought you had such a good team with your draft picks, but like guys like LaShawn McCoy and stuff have just really underperformed for you.
It's just, I think that, and then me overthinking things.
Yeah, you had Cam on your bench last 2 weeks, and he had over 30, didn't he?
Yeah,
Both
and
weeks.
then I started, and then Phillip Rivers is going to have a monster week this week.
Probably. Who did they play?
I can't remember who the Chargers played this week.
They played the Giants, I think. No, they played the Giants last week. Right? On Monday night?
Monday?
Yeah. Because Melvin Gordon had a really good game. I can look it up. It doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
Giants are on 5.
Yeah, thank God.
Just like the Browns.
And somehow they'll probably still make the playoffs and beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
That's something, like, I don't know. Giants have a better defense. Like, they have, like, a pretty decent defense this year, too. I just don't get it. They have all their wide receivers are out now.
You want to talk about the Jaguars defense, too, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. What do y'all think about that?
It's crazy how fast that they've kind of emerged.
Yeah, you got to think the last few draft picks, like, besides Bortles, it's all been, like, real good defensive players.
Besides Bortles and Fournette.
Yeah, Fournette.
What's the defensive lineman that they got from the Cardinals? Gosh, I've completely blanked on his name.
I don't remember his
name. But
yeah,
he signed in the offseason now, and like he was kind of stuck. They showed that little behind the scenes NFL show, and he was kind of stuck between Denver and the Jaguars, and he went to the Jaguars, and man, that looks like a good decision right now because they both essentially got the same record, and the Jaguars defense is just taking off. I mean, it's crazy.
Jaguars.
That whole division has turned around. Remember,
just imagine how good they'd be if they had Tebow.
Wow.
They'd be better. I like Bortles for me.
Y'all remember a couple years ago when that entire division had a losing record and they still just had to send
every year. Every year.
No, even the team that won the division that year had a losing record and had to go to the playoffs.
And the Colts the last couple of years. No, the Colts didn't win last year. I don't remember who won the division last year, but Luck was hurt.
Titans
won the division.
Titans are Buccaneers.
Titans are really bad again this year.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray seems to finally hit that wall
again.
Well, I don't think he hit a wall before. I just think it was the system that he was in. Me and David talked about that before. He's kind of running outside the tackles, and now he's back in a system that he's running inside the tackles. And I drafted Derrick Henry thinking that he was going to take over that starting position, and they latched on to Murray pretty good, and it didn't work out for me. I had to drop him.
Well, Peterson getting traded.
Yeah, that's something else you want to talk about, and that's pretty scary for me because I made a trade actually involving Carson Wentz. I traded Carson Wentz and James White away for David Johnson, hoping to stash him on the bench and use him for the playoffs. And as soon as that trade happened, I was like, oh, that's probably not good because that probably means that they know that he's going to be out longer than they thought or something. But they're still saying
they cut Chris Johnson too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that he wasn't playing a lot in the Saints. I mean, I don't know if there was some rift between him and Sean
He
Payton.
got into it with Sean Payton the first week.
Yeah, but
on the sidelines.
But he wasn't playing. He got into it with him because he wasn't really, using him. I mean, he knew that defense. He played on that team, and he just wasn't using. There's a reason why, but he's getting up there in age,
But he's a freak athlete, though. I mean,
he's a freak athlete, but
He's
how many
got-
times he's had major injuries.
true. But in my opinion, as far as him going to the Cardinals, I don't think he's good enough to start over Mark Ingram, and I think that was the biggest problem that he had with the Saints. I think Mark
too could catch.
I think Mark Ingram's a really undervalued person for the Saints. I think I had him in fantasy last year, and it was kind of I was wanting to pull my hair out because they wouldn't utilize him enough. And I think he's still a really good player. And so I actually think it works out best for the Saints and the Cardinals because I think obviously the Cardinals are getting a better upgrade than Chris Johnson, and I think that Ingram hopefully gets his freedom to finally shine and get those touches that he needs to touch. And then you can also develop Kamara in third down situations.
Well, he's going to get a lot of points, I think, for the Cardinals, but I don't know how long it'll last if he can sustain it because who else? The Cardinals aren't anybody else run the ball. Ellington can't run the ball very well. He can catch some passes, but that's it.
So
Ellington's more of a change of pace back.
Yeah, he's not. Really
Ellington was
He's
a
not-
third
not-
down.
he's not the
Peterson's got the
workhorse.
opportunity. He's got the golden opportunity to score a crap ton of points, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do something to sustain it.
So they on that Monday night game that you're talking about, they unveiled the Star Wars trailer.
Oh yeah,
And so what was your thoughts on that?
I've watched it like 20 times.
I think there's a lot of misdirection.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh,
Or it
yeah.
couldn't. It might not be. It might be.
Like, do you think he's gonna be like during blow play, like it kind of made it seem like? Because they said that
Probably.
That yes.
But like her joining the dark side, she's like, I need someone to.
I think she's talking. I think she's talking to Luke there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's probably
Or-
the beginning of the movie.
Or there's also rumors of an Anakin Force Ghost. But being
Yeah, that'd be kind of weird if they did that. I mean, if the story's good, it's good. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that it legitimately could be Luke as the Last Jedi, and maybe that's what they're joining forces because in the books there was twins, right? Han and Leia had twins.
Han
They
and-
said the
they had
book's
three
not
kids.
canon anymore. And,
Yeah.
Han and Leia had 3 kids. 2 of them were twins.
All I know is that with Rogue One and then the last Star Wars, they were so good that I have pretty good confidence that they're going to
Oh yeah, they're great.
So.
And the special effects, the colors, like everything in the trailer looked awesome. The thing that was riding with Chewbacca, I don't know what that is, but managed to
The Porg.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's pretty awesome.
I think it's Porg.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I was Rogue One. I was pretty skeptical about, and I went and saw it. Actually, went and saw it twice, and I just did with different people. And I'm not a big fan of negative endings, but the way that they ended that, even though it was negative, kind of had a little bit of light in it, and then you got to see Vader go off. So it kind of
that
made
was
it
the
worth
best
it.
part of that movie.
Negative ending or not, there's no other way to end that movie.
Well,
There really isn't.
You didn't really know how they got the plans, though. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they could
just had
have
some
escaped.
spies, but-
Yeah, they could have escaped. They never told you in episode 4 how they got the plans.
Yeah.
No, but they said it was episode 5, and they said a lot of good people died for these.
Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
what they said. Yeah,
That's true.
But was that for the original plans or the second plans?
Who knows?
That was the original one. Because the
Oh.
second one, they're I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Well, it's been
um,
like 6 months since I've seen them.
Right?
We've only got like a couple minutes here. We're on a more of a strict timeline today. But something that's really been bothering me, and I kind of wanted to hear your all's opinion on it as well, The Vegas shooting thing, the way everything's playing out, it really pisses me off. I think I don't think that I'm not necessarily saying there's a conspiracy or there's a cover up or anything like that. I just feel like that they know more than what they're telling us, and it really bothers me. And I didn't know if y'all had a strong opinion on that or not. I mean, on Wednesday, they changed the timeline to where the shooter actually shot the security guard 6 minutes before you and fired onto the crowd. So that means it took 78 minutes from that point for the police to get up there to him. And that's a pretty big change in
time.
time.
Were there reports that it was the police that actually shot the security guard?
I didn't see that report, no. He shot 200 rounds in the hallway, and one of them hit the security guard. The round was the original statement, and it was basically he was firing into the crowd and then shot the security guard. It wasn't, hey, 6 minutes before he even shot in the crowd.
Well, here's my biggest thing. You can't get away with anything in casinos in Vegas. You slide a chip, you're caught. How are you going to carry that much ammo and weapons and gear without
They said he
being
used
caught?
the freight elevator.
And that guy
all that stuff's still under.
But that guy
camera.
too was a VIP. I'd say they couldn't even hassle him if they wanted to. If he came in.
But Mike's right though. They had to have captured something on camera, and he had 2 cell phones and 2 laptops in there. And I mean, you're talking about Hillary Clinton smashed stuff, and they still took information off of it. So they have to.
How many guns did he have in his
26.
You never know.
I thought
It started off
every
more than
report.
10,
Every report's different.
The most I heard was 26, and then there was like another 19 at his house.
Yeah.
I guess that they're not saying a lot because they're still investigating. It's such a huge case. A lot of stuff happened.
The only thing that would justify it for me is if they're investigating it with the intent of it. If there's somebody else involved catching that other person or trying to prevent something. If they're just hiding this information or keeping it close to the vest because he was involved with some type of terrorist organization and they think we can handle it, there's no way that he went in there without a motive. There's no mass murderer in the history of time that has not had some type of motive.
Well, the guy in Connecticut that shot the children up in Newtown, he never had a motive. He was just.
I think we'd have to
crazy.
research that, but I think he had a family member or something working at the school, correct?
No. Like he didn't have any.
So you're pretty well read on it?
No, I'm not well read on it, but I'm sure that they just never found why he did.
Well, he was all, maybe that is the case. That's one of the ones that I never really dove in too deep. And I usually don't get involved with them at all, but for whatever reason, this one just grabbed my attention. I've read every article that I could get my hands on. You've got differing stories, you've got changing timelines. All I know is that it's 2017 and there's no possible way that they had 2 cell phones and 2 laptops from this dude and they don't know why he did it. There's just no possible
And
way.
the guy wouldn't tell anybody that he was going to do it?
Yeah, nobody that he was going to do it. I mean, we're not children here. We did, in my opinion, if my family member was hurt or killed in this, I would want to know why. Because I feel like that it helps us.
It'll bring closure.
Well, not only that, but it helps us learn how to prevent this stuff from the future. And maybe
that's
it
the
is.
scary part about it is there's no way to prevent it. I think that's what the scariest part about it is to most people. There's nothing you can do to stop it. I don't think.
I think there could be because I think there's a lot of merit to people that are on certain types of medication because they've listed the mass murderers that are on certain antidepressant medications, and
I still don't think they should take away your Second Amendment rights because because you may be a little weird.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying, if it becomes a trend that these medications are causing these type of eruptions, that either we change medication or these people that are on these medications may have to do a little bit of further testing into it.
Yeah, that starts one other thing. It's the pharmaceutical people. They have all the money and power and lobbyists and
there are
those people would never.
But even with this change in timeline coming out, nobody's reporting on it, and I'm talking about nobody. Like you have to dig very deep to find any reporting about this. I mean, you're talking about the largest mass murder in American history or modern American history, however you want to say it, and nobody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about Harvey Weinstein, and
it's just an odd that
just
the guy's background. It's usually like a white, some dude like a male in his 20s and 30s that usually does something like this. It's like it's just weird.
Not generally a 64-year-old.
The oldest shooter.
64-year-old man.
I read that the oldest shooter in American history that has committed more than one murders in mass shooting is actually from Kentucky. He was 67.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found that interesting.
Which guy was that? Was
he was at an auto parts store. I just read the timelines. It was like the young shooter.
It's just odd that he doesn't fit the profile, and it's a huge mystery. And it does boggle your mind, and adds a little bit.
I have a need for understanding, especially when I did go to college. I was studying criminal justice, and there was we read the OJ book and a lot of stuff going on to that in the criminal psychology, and I just have to know why. I don't know why.
Weren't there also like 3 different floors, a total of 5 windows busted out?
You're never going to get a true fact on that because let's be honest, if there was some type of shadow operation and they were smart enough to get in and get out and shoot and all that stuff, they're probably going to be smart enough to get a window back in there to where they never even noticed it. I mean, you're talking about shadow groups and high-end conspiracy theories. I'm not even necessarily saying that any of that stuff went on. All I'm saying is that they know why he did it. And we're grown-ups here. We need to be able to move on. People are using it for political gain and everything else. And I don't want any of that stuff. I just want to know why he did it. That way we can understand it and try to. And I do think that understanding why can help prevent things from the future.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the scariest part, though, is there's no real solution. There's people calling on gun bans and stuff, but infringing upon people's Bill of Rights is exactly the reason why some people commit those crimes.
But it's so short-sighted because in the history of time, criminals are going to get their hands on whatever. We were just talking about the Boston bombing earlier, and you're talking about a pressure cooker with a bunch of nails and ball bearings in it. So
but stuff like this can
well, look at the gun ban in Chicago and how many gun
exactly right. It's
how many gun-related crimes are committed in that town every day.
And then also you have Nice, who they take a truck and they kill more people than were killed.
Yeah, my biggest fear of all this is it's going to be increased security, decrease in freedoms. Like if I go to any sporting event, women can't bring purses, and you got to bring clear bags. Can't bring anything in your pocket. They'll frisk you. I mean, this is something that just keeps on and on. Like we'll keep losing just a little bit at a time. But some people it brings some comfort, but to me, I feel like it's just we're losing more liberty.
Yeah.
At the same time,
well,
letting these people.
This is the last thing I'll kind of say on it because we are running short on time. But I think that a group of well-armed, well-trained men and just the concert or the hotels or whoever, if they had just had one security unit in there and somebody with higher power rifles, a scoped rifle, they could have ended that shooting in no time. And also something that nobody's talking about, everybody's talking about, take guns away, take guns away. Well, guess what? If you'd given that security guard a gun and he went up there and he knocked on that hotel room and that dude shot through the door, he could have returned fire. And even if he didn't hit him, which, the shooter shot him, so there's a pretty decent chance if he's trained with that weapon that he could get around on him. But even if he didn't, he's putting shots through that door.
That brings a lot of liability to the hotel, though. If he missed him and went through a wall and killed the person next to you or anything like that, I think that's why they don't.
Or what if the shooter continues to fire for another 8 to 9 minutes after that and killing 58 people out of your hotel? That's bringing a lawsuit either way. It's a lose-lose situation, but if somebody goes into a hotel and they know there's armed guards in there, they're probably going to be a lot less likely to bring guns in and ammunition and all this stuff.
I know there's a crazy guy who shot up the Senate baseball game, armed policemen everywhere, and it had a shootout to kill.
Yeah, it was during the practice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's completely going to put a stop to it, but I'm saying that it can mitigate a lot of loss of life.
I thought a lot about what the solution would be, and I just. Maybe I'm just like.
But let's say the security guard didn't have it. If you have security at that concert, you can put pretty much any of the guys that I hunt with and give them a rifle, 400-yard shot, and they're going to be able to put around them, dude.
I'm just scared that stuff like that will lead to a police state. Like you feel like.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like I don't want to go outside and feel like I'm in 1930s.
I'm not saying.
I know what you're saying.
I'm just saying armed security guards, and that's going to deter a lot of it because if you know you're going into a place that a guy's got a gun and he can get because that dude was apparently planning on getting out of there, so he saw some type of light at the end of the tunnel that prevented him from getting shot. So if these guys know, hey, if I go in here and shoot, I'm gonna die, then they're probably gonna do all this to do.
My thing is, people say, like utopian, like things aren't going to ever work out, like where you can walk around with no like people aren't
Demolition
don't
Man.
have SWAT gear and things like
Like
that.
Demolition Man.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, war and violence has been
been around forever.
since the beginning of man, since Cain and Abel, and it's never going to stop. And people that want to kill people are always going to find a way, whether it be a knife or a gun or a truck or a bomb or
Their hands.
whatever. Yeah, their hands. You know, you look at the percentage of deaths in America in a year, and guns way at the bottom. You know,
Yeah, I agree with that.
hammers and hands.
That's
and,
why I don't think it's necessary
Yeah.
for him to.
So, but you're right, and I feel like that understanding why this guy did it will help change, you know, investigations and criminal behavior to understand a little bit more
Yeah.
and to be able to try to address
Because
this.
I'd be open to some kind of solution if I knew, like, to support something, if I had facts and stuff from somebody that.
But nobody wants to
makes
give the
sense.
facts; they just want to make
Like,
accusations
take it from
and.
left to right, make it political.
And it's you always use the term burnt scorched earth, and it's just scorched earth on the inside.
yeah.
It's allow everything. Everybody should get a minigun, or take every rock stone everywhere.
Take your BB
I don't know.
guns.
When we were on that little mini conspiracy theory tangent, only one thing was going through my head: the scene from Shooter.
Yeah, he sent me that. Yeah, but nothing's ever what it seems, right, Gunny?
Yeah.
So, but
You know for a fact, I got the shovel.
but to kind of rotate off that and to use that, we've been talking a lot about what to do in the future, and we've decided that episode number 13 we're going to do exclusively conspiracy theories. So
Get ready for a long one.
What kind of conspiracy theories do y'all think about right now to do? What kind, like, are you wanting to do?
you know what, we're going to have to save that because we need to
Maybe
talk
make
about
a
it.
surprise.
I have a list of them, and I think we all need to be consensus with it.
I have one in mind that a lot of people don't think of.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back for episode 13 if you like, since you were on the Friday the 13th one.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you being on here. You want to tell people where they can find you on social media if they
No.
want?
I don't like a lot of people.
So, well, you can look up Mike Fishman if you'd like after listening to the podcast. We appreciate you guys listening. I feel like we had some good conversation.
Yeah.
Not really certain about if we're going to do one next week. We're kind of in talks about that, but for sure we're going to do one on October 27th with Jeremy Gross on UFC 217. May do one next week. And then, of course, like I said, episode 13 is going to be the one on conspiracy theories. And, if you guys enjoyed the program today, make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube page at Double Axis Podcast. And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. The more of these that we'll do, we're going to open it up to some fans and do a question and answer one. But, we're kind of still developing the fan base at this point. Feel free to hit us up at any point in time. I gave out Dave's social media. You can find me on social media. Kellen Wimbern on Facebook, at Kentucky Blockbuster 7 on Instagram, and just hit us up with any questions or things that you want to hear, and we'll try to get out the best content possible to you guys. But I really appreciate you tuning in on this Friday the 13th, and really appreciate Mike for being on here, and David for driving back 12, 13 hours, whatever he did. So really appreciate it. But
Good job, Gravy.
we'll see you guys the next time.